Psalm 91. Lord, protect me from everything trying to bring me down. What if the weight on your chest isn't just stress, but a real attempt to drag your spirit down? You've been pushing through, smiling when you're tired, staying strong when you're shaking, and yet something keeps pressing you lower. A quiet dread at night, a sudden heaviness in the morning, the feeling that one more hit could break you. You keep telling yourself, just get through today. But your body doesn't believe you. Your mind keeps scanning the horizon for bad news. Your heart tries to pray, then gets interrupted by fear again, as if peace is always one step away, but never yours. But Psalm 91 opens a secret door in the storm. He who dwells in the secret place of the Most High shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty. And you can say it out loud. Lord, you are my refuge and my fortress. This is not about pretending you're fearless. It is about stepping under covering. Today the noise will lose authority. The fear will loosen its grip. The pressure will stop defining your breath. And you will learn how to return to this shelter whenever the weight tries to come back. I trust God stay close, because in a moment you'll recognize what has been chasing you, and you'll learn where it cannot follow. There are days when it isn't one big crisis. It's 1,000 small pressures, a message you weren't ready to read, a tone that cuts deeper than it should, a bill, a deadline, an expectation you didn't agree to, but somehow you're carrying it anyway. You keep moving through the day like you're fine, like you're stable, like you've got it handled, and then you notice your shoulders never drop. Your jaw stays tight, your breath stays shallow, and even when the room is quiet, your mind keeps pacing like it's guarding the door. This is not weakness, it's wear. Wear makes the soul feel exposed. It makes you believe you're walking through life with no cover, like anything can reach you. And when you feel exposed, you start trying to control everything, every outcome, every conversation, every possibility. But control is a heavy god. It asks for more, and it never gives peace back. Psalm 91 doesn't ask you to control the world. It invites you to dwell, not to visit God only when you're desperate, but to live under His shadow. The secret place is not a hiding spot made of fear. It is a shelter made of presence. It's where the storm can still exist outside you, but it can't build a home inside you. The psalm says, He will cover you with His feathers, and under His wings you will find refuge. That image is not poetry for the sake of beauty. It is a statement of boundary. Wings mean closeness, warmth, protection that surrounds you, not from a distance, but from right over you. It's the kind of cover that doesn't just block the blow. It calms the trembling. Then it says His faithfulness is a shield, not your perfection, not your ability to stay strong every day, not your performance, His faithfulness. So when you feel like everything is trying to bring you down, the first battle is not against the day. It's against the belief that you're alone in it. Because fear grows in isolation, but refuge grows in presence, and God has protected you in ways you never noticed. The delay that felt like frustration, but kept you from the wrong place at the wrong time. The closed door that felt like rejection, but saved you from an assignment that would have broken you. The no that stung, but kept you from a trap you couldn't see. Protection isn't always loud. Sometimes it looks like ordinary life, gently redirected by a faithful God. In the wilderness, God's people walked through a place that had no shortcuts, no comfort, no guarantee. Desert heat by day, cold silence by night, threats around them, uncertainty ahead of them. Yet God covered them. A cloud by day, a fire by night. Not because the desert was safe, but because God was near. They weren't protected by scenery. They were protected by covenant. That same truth is for you. You don't have to feel strong to be covered. You don't have to figure everything out to be safe. The shadow of the Almighty is not earned, it is entered. You step into it by trust. You live inside it by returning. So make it practical today. When pressure rises, don't argue with it for hours. Don't let it recruit your imagination. Pause, breathe, and speak one sentence of refuge before you speak anything else. Lord, you are my shelter. Lord, you are my fortress. Lord, Keep me under your shadow. Then let your body obey the truth. Unclench your hands, drop your shoulders, slow the breath. Because peace is not only an idea, it becomes a rhythm. Not I will be okay because nothing hard happens, but I will be okay because God is my covering. Not I can handle everything, but I don't have to carry everything. And if the weight tries to return, you return too. Again and again. The secret place is not a one-time moment. It is a home. He is my refuge. Hold that line in your spirit, because what comes next will expose the trap behind the pressure, and it will lead you deeper into the protection you've been needing. Sometimes what's trying to bring you down isn't one visible enemy. It's a hidden pattern, a cycle that repeats, a pressure that shows up right when you're making progress, a strange heaviness that rises when you try to pray, a tension in your chest when you're about to rest. It's like something doesn't want you calm, doesn't want you steady, doesn't want you free. And it often works through the smallest openings, a careless word that sticks in your mind like a hook, an accusation you can't stop replaying, a misunderstanding that makes you feel exposed, a situation where you know your intentions were pure, but you still feel judged. You may not say it out loud, but inside you start living like you're on trial. You over-explain, you overthink, you rehearse conversations that never happen. You try to protect your name, your future, your stability, and the more you try, the heavier you become. That is how traps work. They don't always look like danger. They look like I should handle this. They look like I must fix this. They look like I can't let this happen. And slowly, your peace becomes the price you pay for control. Psalm 91 names what you've been sensing. It talks about the snare, the trap, the thing set for you when you're not watching. That's why the psalm doesn't only promise comfort, it promises deliverance. Surely he shall deliver you from the snare of the fowler. Not maybe. Not if you're perfect, surely. And this is the truth that breaks fear's grip. God protects you from what you can't predict. He sees what you don't see. He knows where the trap is hidden. He knows which door looks harmless but leads to a cage. He knows which relationship is draining you. He knows which thought is bait. He knows which opportunity is actually a distraction meant to exhaust you. This is not paranoia. It's wisdom. It's learning to live under God's covering instead of living inside your own suspicion. Think of Daniel. He didn't land in the lion's den because he was careless. He landed there because he was faithful. His integrity became a target. People couldn't defeat him through his work, so they tried to defeat him through a trap. They used laws, politics, reputation. They engineered a setup that would make him look guilty for doing what was right. And the trap worked. Publicly. A decree was signed. Accusers watched. A den was opened. A stone was rolled. It looked sealed. It looked final. It looked like the end. But heaven is not intimidated by sealed stones. God didn't remove Daniel from the system that trapped him. God entered the night with him. God shut the mouths of lions, not because Daniel fought harder, but because Daniel kept dwelling. He kept praying. He kept trusting. And what was designed to devour him became the place where God proved himself. That's what God can do with your den. The fear that says you're trapped, God can answer with, I'm with you. The pressure that says, this will break you, God can answer with, this will not touch your soul. The accusation that says, you're finished, God can answer with, I will honor you. Because Psalm 91 isn't only protection from danger, it is protection from collapse. It keeps your spirit intact when life tries to crush your stability. So today, you practice a new response to pressure. When something tries to provoke panic, you pause before you react. When an accusation rises, you refuse to live in the courtroom of your mind. When the urge to defend yourself takes over, you remember that God is your fortress. And fortresses don't chase every arrow. They stand. Make it practical. If a message triggers you, wait. Breathe. Pray one sentence. If a thought accuses you, name it. This is a snare. Then replace it. God is my refuge. If someone misunderstands you, don't let it rewrite your identity. Let God be your verdict. You can be honest without being frantic. You can be firm without being fearful. You can be quiet and still be protected. God, cover me because the trap is real. But so is the deliverer. And if you stay under the shadow, what was meant to pull you down will lose its grip, and you'll feel your peace returning in places you forgot were possible. Stay close, because next you'll learn how God protects you at night when fear tries to sit beside your bed. There are battles that don't announce themselves with noise. They arrive in the quiet. At night, when your phone stops buzzing, when the lights go off, when the house finally settles, your mind starts talking again. Old scenes, new fears, unfinished conversations, unpaid bills. The what if that feels so real, your body reacts like it's already happening. You can be safe in a room and still feel threatened inside your chest. That's why Psalm 91 speaks so clearly about the dark. It says you will not fear the terror of the night, not because night has no terror, but because you have a covering that doesn't sleep. It also speaks of danger that moves in shadows, of things you can't see coming, because God knows how fear operates. Fear loves the dark, not because darkness is stronger, but because you are more tired there. And when you're tired, everything feels heavier. This is not because you lack faith, it's because your nervous system has been carrying too much for too long. The body remembers pressure, the mind memorizes threats. So even when nothing is happening, you can feel like something is about to happen. But Psalm 91 gives you a different atmosphere to breathe. Not a life with no storms, but a life where storms don't become your home. Not a mind that never gets loud, but a heart that knows where to return when it does. Dwelling is that return. Abiding is that rhythm. There was a night on the sea when the disciples thought they were going to drown. The wind was violent, waves were breaking over the boat, and panic spread fast. They were experienced and still terrified. And Jesus was there, not frantic, not shaken, present. When they called on him, he didn't debate with the storm. He spoke to it. He commanded peace, and the chaos obeyed. The sea didn't calm because the disciples became brave. It calmed because the Lord of the sea was in their boat. That is the picture you need when your thoughts rise like waves. Your mind can feel like water crashing from every side. Fear can feel like wind with no warning. But the presence of God is not a concept. It is a person who speaks. And his voice still carries authority over inner storms. So tonight, when your thoughts surge, don't punish yourself. Don't spiral into shame. Don't say, "What's wrong with me?" Say, "I'm returning." Returning is not failure. It's faith. You don't have to win a debate with every anxious thought. You only need one steady confession to interrupt the flood. Psalm 91 gives it to you. You are my refuge and my fortress. Not a speech, a shelter. Let it become physical. Slow your breath. Inhale, then exhale longer than you inhale. Let your shoulders drop. Unclench your jaw. Put one hand on your chest if you need to, not as a ritual, but as a reminder that you are here, and God is here. Then speak one sentence into the quiet. Lord, cover me. Lord, keep me. Lord, be my refuge. And when fear tries to argue back, you don't argue. You abide. You return again. Because the secret place isn't entered by intensity. It's entered by trust. Not, I must control my mind. But, I can rest under your shadow. Not, I must solve everything now. But you are with me in this moment. Not, if I sleep I lose, but if I sleep I trust. God, give me peace. Psalm 91 isn't asking you to be fearless. It's teaching you where fear can't rule. Under his wings, your body learns safety again. Under his shadow, your mind learns stillness again. Under his faithfulness, your heart learns to stop scanning the dark. And this doesn't mean you never wake up with concern. It means concern doesn't get to become your master. It means when the thought comes, something's going to happen, you answer, God is watching. It means when the mind says, you're alone, you answer, He is with me. It means you stop letting the night preach to you. If you need one more line of scripture to hold, keep it simple. God keeps in perfect peace the mind that is stayed on Him. Not the mind that never gets attacked, the mind that returns. And as you practice this, something shifts. Your sleep becomes less like survival. Your rest becomes less like collapse. Peace stops being a rare visitor and starts becoming a familiar presence. Because the God who covers you in the quiet will also guide you when the day gets loud again. And you'll start to notice He's been keeping your steps in ways you didn't even realize. Morning can feel safer than night and still be dangerous in a different way. Because the arrow by day rarely looks like a weapon. It looks like pressure, a demand that arrives too fast, a decision you have to make with incomplete information, a conversation where someone's tone turns sharp and your peace starts slipping, a headline that spikes your chest, a phone call that changes your mood for hours, a moment where you feel judged, compared, pushed, and you can't explain why it hurts so much, but it does. Daytime attacks don't always try to scare you. They try to drain you. They steal your focus, your patience, your confidence, your clarity, until you feel like you're moving through life with your spirit bent forward, bracing for impact. And when you live braced, you start living small, you start shrinking your hopes, you start lowering your expectations, you start calling survival normal. But Psalm 91 speaks to the day as boldly as it speaks to the night. You will not fear the arrow that flies by day. That is not denial, that is authority. It's God saying, I know what hits you when the sun is up. The stress that hides in routines, the discouragement that arrives through people, the confusion that slips in through noise, the wear that builds when you're always needed, always responsible, always holding it together. And here is the contrast you need to hear. Not, you will never be pressured, but pressure will not own you. Not, you will never face harshness, but harshness will not hollow you out. Not, you will never be challenged, but you will not be unprotected. Because under the shadow of the Most High, your day is not an open field, it's guarded. Psalm 91 says, God gives his angels charge over you, to keep you in all your ways. That means your movements, your timing, your path. The turns you take that look ordinary, but carry consequences. You might not notice the keeping, because it often feels like just life. But heaven is not casual about your steps. There have been days when you avoided trouble and never knew it, a decision you didn't make, a road you didn't take, a meeting that got delayed, a conversation that didn't happen. You thought it was random, but your life stayed intact. God's protection is not always a spectacle. Sometimes it's a quiet redirection that keeps you standing. This is why you don't have to start your day with anxiety. You can start with alignment. Not begging God to fix everything, but placing yourself under covering before the first demand reaches you. Because when you begin in the secret place, you don't enter the day exposed. You enter the day positioned. Think of Elijah. Not in his victory, but in his exhaustion. He ran, he hid, he felt hunted. He felt like the day could crush him. And God didn't meet him with pressure. God met him with provision, bread, water, rest. Then a whisper, not dramatic, but precise. Not loud, but steady. God restored him, then guided him. That's what angels do. They strengthen you, then keep you in your way. So today, the practical application is simple but strong. Before you answer people, you answer God. Before you consume noise, you breathe in truth. When something tries to provoke you, you pause instead of reacting. When a thought says, this is too much, you answer, I am covered. When a moment tries to steal your confidence, you don't chase approval, you return to the fortress, and you guard access. Not everyone gets a front row seat to your peace. Not every demand deserves an instant response. Not every opinion deserves a home in your mind. Boundaries are not hardness, they are wisdom. They are a way of keeping your spirit under the shadow when the day gets loud. Say it quietly as you step into your responsibilities, not as a performance but as a decision. God, go before me, because what's trying to bring you down wants you hurried, reactive, and drained. But God is teaching you a different way, steady, covered, clear. And as you walk like this, you'll start noticing something. The arrows may still fly, but they won't land the same. They won't pierce as deep. They won't stay as long. You will feel a new resistance inside you, not from pride, but from protection. Hold on to that. Because Psalm 91 has a promise that reaches beyond you. It reaches your dwelling, your home, the places you love, and what you've been trying to protect with your own strength. There's a kind of fear that doesn't start with what might happen to you. It starts with what might happen to what you love, your home, your family, your peace, the people you can't stop caring about, even when you're exhausted. You can carry your own pain with a clenched jaw, but when the thought touches them, the fear gets sharper. Your mind races ahead, creating scenes you never asked to see, And suddenly you're not resting, you're guarding, not breathing and bracing. That's why Psalm 91 doesn't only talk about the night and the day, it talks about your dwelling. No evil shall befall you, nor shall any plague come near your dwelling. That word is intimate. It's not just your life in theory, it's your space, your doorways, your atmosphere, the place where you sleep, where you eat, where you try to be okay again. And the truth is, you've been trying to protect your dwelling with your own strength. By worrying harder, by checking more, by staying on alert, by never fully relaxing, because some part of you believes that if you loosen your grip, something will slip through. But constant vigilance is not the same as protection. It feels responsible, but it quietly drains the soul. This is not love, it's pressure. And Psalm 91 offers a different kind of protection, not a fragile one that depends on your nerves, but a covering that depends on God's faithfulness. It says He will give His angels charge over you to keep you in all your ways. That doesn't stop at your calendar. It reaches your home. It reaches the places you can't control when you're not watching. Not because your dwelling is perfect, but because God's covering is real. Think of the wilderness again, a people living in tents, exposed to weather, exposed to threats, exposed to uncertainty. No walls, no security systems, no guarantees. Yet over that camp there was a cloud by day and fire by night. That means even when they couldn't see ahead, the covering stayed. Even when enemies were near, the presence stayed. Even when the desert was loud with danger, the shelter was steady. That's what God can be over your dwelling. Not a promise that nothing hard ever comes close, but a promise that what comes close will not own the atmosphere inside. That fear will not become the ruler of your home. That darkness may pass outside the window, but it does not get to settle in your spirit. Because here's the contrast. Not a house without storms, but a house with covering. Not a family without problems, but a family under covenant. Not a life with no threats, but a life where threats don't have final access. And if you're honest, some of what has been trying to bring you down has been entering through the smallest openings. A constant stream of worry, words spoken in frustration that linger in the air, noise that follows you into the evening, a tired body that makes everything feel urgent. The enemy doesn't always kick down a door. Sometimes he just waits for you to live open, unguarded, depleted. But Psalm 91 teaches you how to guard your dwelling without living in fear. You do it by placing the atmosphere under God. You do it by blessing instead of bracing, by praying instead of panicking, by returning to the secret place and letting the secret place spread into your home. Make it practical today before the day swallows you. When you step out of bed, whisper one sentence over your dwelling. Not long, not complicated, just covenant. Lord, cover this home. Lord, keep this family. Lord, guard our peace. Then when stress rises, you don't release it into the house like smoke. You catch it early. You pause, you breathe, you lower your voice. You choose peace as an act of faith, not because you feel calm, but because you refuse to let pressure set the tone. If you're carrying fear for someone you love, don't carry it like a curse. Carry it like an offering. Put their name in God's hands again. You can't be everywhere, but God can. You can't control every outcome, but God can keep your dwelling. You can't predict every danger, but heaven can guard what you cannot see. And if your mind says, "But what if?" you answer, "But God." But God is my refuge. But God gives angels charge. But God watches the dwelling. But God does not sleep. God, guard my home. Say it softly and mean it. Because the moment you place your dwelling under God, you stop trying to play God with your nervous system. You stop paying for peace with anxiety. You stop measuring safety by how tense you feel. You begin to measure safety by covenant, by presence, by the shadow of the Most High. And you'll start to notice something. When fear tries to enter, it doesn't settle like it used to. The atmosphere shifts faster. The heaviness lifts sooner. The peace returns more naturally. Because your home is learning a new covering. Hold on, because next, Psalm 91 goes even deeper. It shows you how God protects the most important dwelling of all, the one inside you, where thoughts try to build a war room. There is a dwelling deeper than your house, It's the place inside you where thoughts live. And when something is trying to bring you down, it doesn't always start with your circumstances. It starts by trying to move into that inner space. It starts by turning your mind into a war room, planning, rehearsing, predicting, defending, until peace feels like a luxury you can't afford. You can be in a safe place and still feel unsafe, because fear isn't only around you, it's trying to settle within you. That's why Psalm 91 is not only a promise of protection outside, it's a promise of protection within. It says His truth will be your shield and buckler. A shield stops what is coming at you. A buckler stays close, guarding the vital places. That means God doesn't only block big attacks. He guards the quiet places that keep you alive. Your thoughts, your breath, your ability to stay steady. And this is where many people lose ground. Not because the problem is bigger than them, but because the mind becomes the battlefield, and they start believing every fearful thought is a warning they must obey. Fear starts speaking like wisdom. Anxiety starts sounding like responsibility. And the more you listen, the more your inner dwelling fills with noise. This is not discernment, it's depletion. Psalm 91 invites you to a different kind of dwelling, not living inside worst-case scenarios, but living under the shadow of the Most High. Because whatever you dwell in, you start to resemble. If you dwell in threat, you become tense. If you dwell in panic, you become reactive. But if you dwell in God, you become anchored. Even while the wind still blows outside. There's a reason the psalm uses images like feathers, wings, shield, fortress, because fear is trying to convince you that you are exposed. But God is showing you, you are surrounded. And sometimes what tries to move into your mind is not only fear, it's accusation. You should have known. You should have done more. You're falling behind. God is tired of you. Accusation doesn't just hurt, it displaces. It pushes you out of peace and into self-punishment. It makes you try to earn what God freely gives. It makes prayer feel like pressure instead of refuge. But this is not what the secret place is for. The secret place is not where you go to perform. It's where you go to be covered. Not where you pretend you're fine, no, but where you return when you're not. Not where you hide from God, but where you let God hide you from what's trying to break you. Think of Elijah again. Not in the fire, not in the victory, but in the collapse. He ran, he trembled, he felt alone, he felt hunted. His mind was full of doom, his emotions were loud. And God didn't crush him for it. God fed him. God let him sleep. God spoke softly. The whisper was not punishment. It was protection. It was God rebuilding the inner dwelling before sending Elijah back into the world. That's your pattern too. Sometimes the most powerful protection God gives you is the restoration of your inner atmosphere. The moment your heart stops racing, the moment your breath returns, the moment your mind stops spinning long enough to hear one clear truth. So here is the practical turning point today. You choose what gets to live in your inner dwelling. Not everything that enters your mind deserves to stay there. Not every thought is a messenger. Some thoughts are intruders, some are bait, some are arrows. And Psalm 91 teaches you to stop hosting what is harming you. When a fearful thought arrives, you don't follow it into a tunnel. You name it. This is fear. Then you replace it. God is my refuge. Simple, steady, again and again. Not once, as many times as it takes. Because returning is how you dwell, and you guard your inputs. You limit the voices that poison your peace. You stop feeding your nervous system with constant alarm. You choose a slower rhythm. You choose a cleaner atmosphere. Because your spirit cannot live in the secret place while your mind lives in a siren. Not I must control everything, but I will return to God. Not I must fight every thought, but I will dwell under His shadow. Not I must be strong all the time, but His faithfulness is my shield. My mind is yours, say it quietly, and mean it. Then breathe, and let the shield do its work. Let the fortress hold the line. Let the wings cover the parts of you that have been trembling in secret. Let your inner dwelling become a place where fear visits, but cannot move in. Because when your inner world is guarded, everything changes. You respond instead of react. You walk instead of rush. You sleep instead of spiral. You hear God's voice faster. and fear's voice fades sooner. And keep this close, because the next movement in Psalm 91 is deeply personal. It's where God himself speaks, and he tells you what happens when you call on him. There comes a moment when you stop talking about God, and you need to hear God speak to you, because you can know the promises and still wonder, will he answer me? You can repeat the psalm and still feel the pressure in your chest. You can believe in protection and still fear that you're the exception. That's where Psalm 91 turns from description to direct voice, and it becomes personal. God says, "Because you have set your love upon me, therefore I will deliver you." Not because you performed perfectly, but because you clung to him. Not because you never trembled, but because you returned. This is not a reward for flawless faith. It is a response to real devotion. Then he says, "I will set you on high because you have known my name." High doesn't mean you never face the valley. It means the valley doesn't get to define your identity. High means your life is not destined to stay under the weight. High means what tried to bring you down doesn't get the final word over your future. And listen closely. This is the line your soul has been craving. He shall call upon me, and I will answer him. Not I might, not maybe later. I will. God doesn't speak like an uncertain friend. He speaks like a covenant keeper. Fear tells you heaven is silent, but God answers that lie with a promise. I will be with him in trouble. Not only before the trouble, in it. Not only after you recover and while you're still shaking. This is not a distant protection, it is a present companionship. Trouble may surround you, but it will not isolate you from God. The room may feel quiet, but you are not abandoned. The problem may be real, but you are not uncovered. Then God adds more, I will deliver him and honor him. Honor means fear doesn't get to humiliate you. It means you won't be defined by the moment you felt weakest. And he says he will show you his salvation. Not just a rescue you hear about, but a rescue you recognize. You've seen this pattern before, even if you didn't name it. Daniel was in trouble, and God was with him in the den. The disciples were in trouble, and Jesus was in the boat. Elijah was in trouble, and God met him with bread, rest, and a whisper. God's presence doesn't wait for perfect conditions. It steps into the moment where you feel most exposed, and it becomes your shelter from the inside out. So here is what changes today. You stop treating prayer like a last resort. You stop calling only when you've exhausted yourself. You stop waiting until the panic becomes unbearable. You call early and you call simply. You call like someone who believes God keeps his word. And calling doesn't have to be long. It can be one sentence when your mind starts racing, one whisper when the fear rises, one breath where you say his name and let your body soften under his shadow. Open your hands for a moment, not as a show but as a signal to your own heart. You're releasing the grip. Calling is not a performance, it is contact. Not, I must fix this, but Lord answer me. Not I must carry this, but Lord be with me. Not I must be strong, but Lord deliver me. He answers me. When you say that, you're not denying reality. You're choosing covenant. You're stepping out of the courtroom in your head and into the refuge God promised. You're refusing to let silence interpret God for you. Because silence is not absence. It is often the space where God builds endurance, clarity, and trust. And when the answer comes, it may not always look like a sudden change outside you. Sometimes the answer is peace that arrives first. Sometimes it's strength that returns to your bones. Sometimes it's a door that closes to protect you. Sometimes it's a warning that keeps you from a trap. Sometimes it's a quiet clarity that tells you your next step. Sometimes it's the storm still present, but no longer ruling your breath. But it is an answer. So keep calling, keep dwelling, keep returning. Not because you're trying to convince God, but because God already spoke his promise. Your call is not what awakens him. It awakens you to the shelter you've had all along. Stay with me, because the psalm is about to move from promise to practice, and you're going to place everything under that covering in a way your heart can actually feel. There's another way the weight tries to bring you down. It doesn't always come through a crisis. Sometimes it comes through constant exposure, too many voices, too much noise, too many signals telling you the world is unsafe, people are unreliable, and your future is fragile. You can wake up with a calm heart, And 5 minutes later, one headline, one comment, one memory, one message, and your peace is already leaking, and you start living like this, always checking, always scanning, always bracing. That doesn't look like fear at first, it looks like being responsible, but over time it becomes a hidden snare, not because information is evil, but because fear uses repetition. It keeps tapping the same nerve until your body learns panic as a habit. Psalm 91 speaks into that exact pattern. It says, "You will not fear the terror of the night, nor the arrow that flies by day, nor the pestilence that walks in darkness, nor the destruction that lays waste at noonday." The psalm is naming pressures that move quietly, unseen forces that travel through air and atmosphere, through crowds and conversations, through seasons that feel uncertain. Then it gives you a boundary. No evil shall befall you. Not because nothing ever exists outside, but because evil does not get to settle inside. It does not get to live in your breath, in your mind, in your home. Psalm 91 is not a charm, it is a place, a dwelling, a decision to live under God instead of under alarm. This is where you need a different kind of discernment. Not every urgent feeling is a warning from God. Not every anxious thought is wisdom. Not every "I have to check again" is responsibility. Sometimes it's just the nervous system trying to feel control and losing peace in the process. God's protection includes what you allow to enter your inner world. That's why the psalm talks about dwelling, because dwelling is a gate. A gate decides what comes in, what stays out, what gets access, what gets denied. And there's a powerful mirror in Scripture that shows this kind of protection. In Egypt, on a night full of fear, God told his people to mark their doorposts. It wasn't decoration. It was a declaration. A visible sign that said, "This house belongs to God." And the result was not chaos inside, it was distinction. The night did not decide who was covered. Covenant did. That story matters because your doorposts today are not wood and paint. They're your attention, your words, your atmosphere, what you keep feeding your mind, what you keep letting repeat in your chest. So here is the practical shift. When you feel that pull to obsess, to scroll, to check, to rehearse disaster, you interrupt it early. Not with force, with refuge. You step back under the shadow before the noise builds momentum. You can do something simple. You pause. You breathe. You speak one line of truth that re-anchors you. Lord, you are my refuge. Lord, you are my fortress. Under your wings, I am safe. Then you choose a boundary. You limit what floods you. You stop letting fear drip into your day like a slow poison. You guard the first minutes of your morning. You guard the last minutes of your night. You don't let your spirit start the day in panic and call it normal. And when you can't control what's happening around you, you can always control where you dwell. This is not avoidance, it is wisdom. This is not denial, it is authority. Because Psalm 91 doesn't promise you a world with no threats. It promises you a life with covering. It promises a God who keeps you in your ways. And if you keep returning, your body starts learning a new default, not alarm, but abiding. I dwell with God. And once that becomes your inner posture, you'll notice it. The same information that used to shake you won't shake you the same way. The same pressure that used to drain you won't drain you as deeply. The noise may still exist, but it won't own your atmosphere, because you're not living in the open anymore. You're living under the shadow. When your words become a fortress, there's a moment when the attack stops feeling external and becomes internal agreement. Not because you want fear, but because fear keeps talking until you start answering in its language. You don't notice it at first. It slips in through phrases you repeat when you're tired. This always happens to me. I can't handle this. Nothing is going to change. And every time you say it, something inside you sinks a little lower, as if your own words are helping the weight do its job. This is not just negativity, it's alignment. Because Psalm 91 is very specific about one thing. I will say of the Lord, He is my refuge and my fortress. It doesn't say, I will think it sometimes. It says, I will say, out loud, In real time, under pressure, when the arrow flies, when the night tightens, when the mind wants to spiral, you speak a different atmosphere into the room. Not because God needs volume, but because you need authority. Fear speaks in images. It paints disasters in the dark. It uses your imagination against you. But faith speaks in truth. It takes the same mouth that fear tried to hijack and turns it into a gatekeeper. And the psalm gives you the exact sentence to hold when your own words feel weak. He is my refuge and my fortress. Refuge means you can run. Fortress means you can stand. Some days you need to run to God. Some days you need to stand in God. Either way, you don't stand alone. This is why the enemy tries to exhaust you, because an exhausted person speaks quickly, reacts easily, agrees carelessly. And agreement is powerful. Agreement builds atmospheres. Agreement shapes outcomes. Agreement decides what gets access to your inner dwelling, but you don't have to agree with fear. You can be honest about pain without partnering with panic. You can admit you're tired without declaring defeat. You can acknowledge the storm without crowning it. Not this is the end, but this is a moment. Not God left me, but God is covering me. Not I'm going down, but I'm under the shadow. I trust God. Daniel understood this kind of alignment. He didn't survive because he argued better. He survived because he stayed positioned. He kept praying. He kept dwelling. He kept his mouth pointed toward God when the system tried to silence him. And in the night, when lions should have been the loudest voice, heaven became the authority. The den didn't change Daniel, it's Daniel's God changed the den. That's what happens when your confession becomes a fortress. You stop letting the environment dictate your spirit. You stop letting pressure write your script. You stop letting fear decide the next sentence. And this is where it becomes practical. Right now, today. When the first heavy thought arrives, don't let it become a conversation. Let it become a signal to return, a signal to speak. If you wake up and feel the weight, you don't say, "Here we go again." You say, "Lord, you are my refuge." If you get bad news and your chest tightens, you don't say, "I knew it." You say, "Lord, you are my fortress." If you're tired and the mind starts predicting loss, you don't say, "I can't." You say, "Under your wings, I am safe." He heard me, and you don't have to shout. You don't have to perform. You just have to be consistent, because repetition trains the soul. The same way fear trained you through repetition, faith can retrain you through repetition. It's like building a wall brick by brick. Every time you speak refuge, you lay a brick. Every time you choose truth over panic, you lay a brick. Every time you return instead of spiral, you lay a brick. Soon, what used to flood you starts hitting a boundary. The waves still come, but they meet a wall. The wind still blows, but it can't move you the way it used to, because your inner world is being reinforced by the truth of God. And there's a quiet promise hidden in this. When you speak refuge, you are not only comforting yourself, you are agreeing with heaven. You are cooperating with the covering of Psalm 91. You are stepping under what God already declared, so don't wait until you feel calm to speak. Speak until calm arrives. Don't wait until you feel strong to confess. Confess until strength returns. Don't wait until the storm ends to dwell. Dwell until the storm loses authority. My words are faith, and keep staying here, because we're about to enter the final movement, the place where you stop holding the promise at a distance, and you place your whole life under it, in prayer, with breath-by-breath surrender. When the shadow becomes your decision, there is a final turn in Psalm 91 that changes everything. It's the moment you stop treating protection like a nice thought, and you treat it like a place you choose. Because covering isn't only something God offers, it's something you enter. The psalm doesn't say you glance at the secret place. It says you dwell there, you stay, you make it your address. And that is where fear loses leverage. Fear survives on distance. It survives when God feels far, when prayer feels delayed, when you feel like you have to climb your way back into peace. But Psalm 91 is not a ladder. It's a shelter. It's not a performance. It's a position. Under the shadow, you are not trying to impress God. You are letting God protect you. This matters because what has been trying to bring you down has one main strategy: to keep you reacting. Reacting to the day, reacting to people, reacting to your own thoughts, reacting to what you can't control. And reaction feels urgent, but it isn't powerful. It drains you, then calls the draining normal. Dwelling is different. Dwelling is a quiet refusal to live exposed. It is a steady choice to return before you collapse. It is the discipline of coming back under the shadow when your mind wants to run. And Psalm 91 gives you a picture for that, the shadow. A shadow means closeness. It means the one covering you is not across the room. He is over you, not watching from a distance, but surrounding you. When the sun is harsh, shadow is mercy. When the wind is violent, shadow is boundary. When the day is loud, shadow is stillness. So your job is not to create the shadow. Your job is to step into it. And you step into it with one decision at a time. When fear tries to pull you into tomorrow, you step into the shadow now. When shame tries to pull you into yesterday, you step into the shadow now. When pressure tries to pull you into panic, you step into the shadow now. This is not denial. It is alignment. This is not pretending the storm isn't real. It is refusing to live inside it. Remember the sea again. Waves rising, wind screaming, the horizon disappearing. The disciples looked at water and saw death. But Jesus looked at the storm and saw something that could be commanded. That contrast is what God is building in you. Not a life with no waves, but a heart that knows where authority lives. And authority begins with dwelling. Because the psalm also says, "He shall cover you, and he shall deliver you, and he shall keep you." Those words are God's side of the covenant. Your side is simple. Stay close, return, abide. So make it practical in the smallest ways. Before you reach for your phone, breathe once and return. Before you answer a difficult message, pause and return. Before you walk into a heavy room, whisper his name and return. Before you sleep, release your grip and return. And when you can't find many words, you don't need many. Psalm 91 gives you one sentence that is enough for a trembling moment. You are my refuge and my fortress. Say it slowly. Let the breath carry it. Let your body learn it. I surrender, because surrender is not giving up. It is giving over, not collapsing, but placing the weight into hands stronger than yours. You are not called to carry the whole world on your chest. You are called to dwell under the shadow of the one who never sleeps. And here is what will shift when you live this way. You will still face days that are hard, but you won't face them hollow. You will still encounter pressure, but it won't have the same access. You will still hear noise, but it won't become your atmosphere. The storm may pass through your calendar, but it will not move into your soul. And if you've been asking, how do I feel safe again? This is the answer. You return until refuge feels familiar. You return until peace becomes your default. You return until your heart stops treating God like an emergency contact and starts treating him like home. Hold your breath for a second, then let it go. Because now you're not just hearing Psalm 91, you're about to step into it with prayer, with tenderness, with strength, right under the shadow. Pause, breathe in slowly, and breathe out even slower. If you can, close your eyes for a moment and let your shoulders drop. Let your jaw unclench. Let your chest soften. Father, here I am, and here you are. I step into the secret place right now, not because I'm strong, but because you are faithful. I stop running in my mind. I stop bracing in my body. I stop trying to control what I cannot control. You are my refuge and my fortress. You are my refuge and my fortress. Cover me under your wings. Let your faithfulness become a shield around my thoughts. Silence every voice that has been trying to bring me down. Break every snare I couldn't see. Disarm every arrow that was sent to drain my peace. Lord, keep me in the night. When my mind wakes up, be my calm. When fear tries to rise, be my covering. When my heart feels tight, breathe your peace into me, breath by breath, and keep me in the day. Go before me in every decision. Guard my steps in ways I will never notice. Place your angels over my ways, over my timing, over my path. Protect me from what I can't predict and from what I can't control. I place my home under your shadow. I place my family under your protection. I place my future in your hands. Father, I refuse to partner with fear. I refuse to let anxiety preach to my spirit. I refuse to let pressure become my master. I trust God. I rest in you, God. Go before me now. In the name of the Lord, I speak this over your life. The storm will not steal your peace. The trap will not hold you. The night will not swallow you. The arrow will not break you. You will dwell under the shadow of the Almighty, and you will abide. Lord, answer when I call. Be with me in trouble. Deliver me and honor me. Restore my breath. Restore my sleep. Restore my clarity. Let your light push back every darkness. Let your presence settle in this room like warmth, like shelter, like quiet fire. Let my body learn safety again. Let my mind learn stillness again. And I declare this, slowly, like a covenant. You are my refuge. You are my fortress. Under your wings, I am safe. He heard me in Jesus' name. Amen. So be it. You are not uncovered. You are under the shadow of the Most High. Keep dwelling, keep calling, keep trusting, because God promised to answer and to be with you in trouble. This is not the end. It's the beginning of something new. Subscribe and activate the bell, because the next word could change everything.